we're going to talk a little bit about color. We're going to explore some really pretty sounds. You're going to learn how to make these sounds from scratch, using a concept that Barry Harris called borrowing from the neighbors. It's a powerful concept. It's a lot of fun to practice, so let's get into it. Before going forward, if this is the first Labyrinth of Limitations episode that you've seen, I recommend going back to what I started in February with the Foundations project. Check out Foundations 0 and Foundations 1 for a nice introduction into this. Also on my website, I have PDFs available, and you can get Foundations 1 and Foundations 2 if you'd like to have the textbooks for this. And I have an online music course on my Patreon and a vibrant community. I am continually adding to the cohesive curriculum there that gives a step-by-step approach into all of this. I post videos and PDFs on a regular weekly basis. Also things like web links for apps that I develop that help with practicing, and I give weekly Zoom classes. And now Chris Parks joins us for one of those a month, which is a lot of fun. Chris Parks from Things I Learned from Barry Harris. So consider checking that out. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please give this video a like and a subscribe. All right, let's get back to practicing borrowing. All right, for a little context, we're thinking in C major. Just a 1-6-2-5, nice and simple. On the 2 chord, D minor 7 is F major 6. I'm going to do the thing I talked about in a recent YouTube short. So now on the 2 chord, I just lower it by 1 semitone. I'm going to take F major 6 and lower it and put it over G. See, that sound is really pretty. I talked about that in a YouTube short. We're going to stick with that so that I don't have to think about my dominant, and I can just think of the 2 chord, which is where we're going to put all of our work. So again, the context is C major 6 is the 1 chord, C major 6 is the 6 chord. I can put A in the bass to make it sound a little more minory. And then I can lower the 5th and the 3rd. Talked about that in a recent YouTube short. And then that gets me to F major 6. And then I can just lower some parts of F major 6 or the whole chord. All of it works fine, but a little bit of it is nice. And that's my context. Resolve to C. A lot of times I'm going to play G major 6 over C for keeping things simple and kind of connected to what I did in recent YouTube short stuff, if you guys have been checking that out. We're going to make a lot of use out of F major 6. So let's play drop 2s just to kind of get ourselves settled in here. This is F major 6 with the 5th in the bass. You got to be able to work your way up and down these scales. It's kind of hard to play the drop 2s. They have some stretches, particularly the root position one. Now, for what we're going to do, I'm going to only use the bottom end for starters. We're going to use parts of drop 2s. So these are what I call shell chords. And they're way easier to play, and you can do some really pretty stuff. That's what we're going to be able to do, is stuff like that. So let's look right here at this one that we started out with drop 2. Let's just do the bottom end of that. So I'm going to borrow above the top note of that. So on the 3rd string, and I'll just move it down like that. And that's a nice sound. And the way I'm borrowing, so borrowing from the neighbors means if I'm on the on chord, I borrow an off chord note. If I'm on the off chord, I borrow from the on chord note, okay? And the way I know how to do that is by thinking of the scale like this. I'm thinking of it as a linear scale, just like any other scale. And I see that. See, that's really important to be able to see this. So I'm learning all these chord shapes as I go, as I develop vocabulary, but really, I'm really seeing that. And then I harmonize it by using different shapes, different floors of the elevator. That's really important because now, if I see the scale that way, now I know that this is the major 3rd and I have to go up a half step to borrow. And I can do that at every step. Now I'm on the off chord, I'm going to borrow an on chord, and this is the 4th, see? So, like that. And now I'm going to go to the on chord, and this is the 5th, 5, sharp 5. All that. So right now I'm doing what's kind of the default move is to give those notes back, but you can also keep borrowing them and just move to the next chord, which is a nice sound, see? Really great sound, see? Really pretty stuff. That's a nice one, see? Exactly how I did it. It's a really nice sound. So then, I guess there's one more. Oh man, those are nice. So that is borrowing above the 3rd, borrowing above the 2nd of the off chord, and I'll finally give this one back. And then I move to tritones minor. Just some pretty sounds. Now that's borrowing above the top note. You could borrow any note. You can borrow above or below any note. So say this one, we could do like this instead. I'm going to view this. This is the top end of a drop 2. I think of this as a low shell. This is a high shell, low shell. You know, the basic theory of that is this is the 5th, so the next note that should come up is the 6th, and the root, and the 3rd, and I skip one of those middle notes, and since I skip a middle note, I'm hollowing it out like a shell. So I know normally people think of a shell as a very specific thing. This is just generalizing the concept, I think. And that's the way I view it. It gives me a simple way of referring to it. So here I am with this top end of a drop 2, right? I'm going to borrow above the 3rd string. So that was a 6th. This is a major 7th. So I could do this. I could move it down like that. Oh man, that's nice. What about this one? So this would be... You know, there's just lots of possibilities. So many things you could do this with any floor of the elevator, and I'll just do one with like moving with the elevator while doing this. This is something that in Unit 3 of my course that I'm building on Patreon, we're going to have this as one of the exercises we do, just learning a little bit of combining borrowing with the elevator. But it's going to be like this, and then maybe, oh man, that's really nice. So that was, and then, so I'm going borrowing above a shell, and then I'm going to what I call an octave chord, and then really pretty. So that's a nice thing. You could really go down a rabbit hole with that type of stuff. That's kind of more advanced. But I hope that this has opened up some possibilities for you and inspired you. If you knew about borrowing before, maybe this kind of is a nice refresher. And but enjoy practicing your borrowing on a 2-chord or any chord using the scales of chords that Barry Harris gave us to practice. So happy practicing. I'll talk to you soon.